SharpNotes for Android. SharpNotes is an Android application that helps music instructors better organize their list of student and contact information. It is integrated with the Google Contacts and Calendar that you're already familiar with from your phone. You can easily contact students via email, text, or phone from within SharpNotes. You can easily view your upcoming schedule, track the history of when you met with each student, record and track student progress. Getting started with SharpNotes is very easy. First, when you install it, you'll see the typical license agreement. Accept the license. If you're upgrading from the free edition, you will be prompted to uninstall the free edition, and note that your information is automatically migrated. So the starting point looks as it does here on the right hand side of the screen. You see there's three tabs: Students, Schedule, and History. We'll walk through each of these throughout the demo. First, let's talk about how to add a student. There are two ways you can use the Add Student button, which will create a new contact in your phone. That contact can then be used for other applications. For example, from the phone you'll see that contact. You use the typical contact editor that you're used to from within your Android phone. The alternative way is to add from existing contacts. So those contacts you've already created in your phone, you'll see a list of them, and you'll be able to pick which one you want to add as a student. Having done that, either by creating a new contact or choosing an existing one, you'll be taken to the student detail activity. Here you can do a number of things. First, associate a schedule. This is completely optional. You could choose to simply maintain your student notes per session by creating them from the Student tab, but here we'll walk through how to create a schedule, in this case a weekly schedule. So to do that, we press the Schedule button, which opens up the Event Details activity, which you're probably already familiar with from using the Google Calendar within the Android device. You select the starting period. It will be important to note what day of the week we choose here, because that will be the day that the recurrence pattern will establish for the day of the week the meeting happens each week. Here we're going to set it to Monday at 10 a.m. And next we'll set the repetition. As I said, we're going to make this a weekly session every Monday. Having set the repetition, we'll save the calendar appointment. We find ourselves back on the student detail activity. The session time occurrence won't yet appear in the activity. That'll happen once we save and reopen this. Let's set the rate. The rate is the amount we charge this student. The notes can be entered here if you have some notes you want to remind yourself about this particular student. We click Done, and we'll be back on the Student tab where we'll see our newly created student. So next we'll focus on the schedule. Having already established the schedule from within the student activity, it will show here. This looks a little empty because we have only one student and we've established a weekly appointment, and this view shows us only 1 week's worth of appointments. If we had more students, or if this student's session reoccurred every day, we'd see a long list of appointments here. What I'm going to do now is press and hold on the student's appointment here and add a note from that session. So you'll probably want to remind yourself about what you covered with the student during the session, and this is how you would do it within SharpNotes. So having pressed and held on that session appointment, this menu appears and it has an option to document the session. You could have just tapped the student appointment also, and it would also get you directly there, but this helps you see what other options are available. So we're going to document the session. This opens the session activity, and it automatically populates the date and time of the session based on the appointment time. And then we can add the notes to remind ourselves of what we covered with the student. We'll click Done to save it. And now back on the Schedule tab, you may be wondering how would we later view those notes. That's what the History tab is all about, so let's go there. So here on the History tab, we see the note that was entered. The first line of it appears. Once we have more students and we have more notes, this tab would be full of each of those. It would show for all students. The History tab here reflects every student in the SharpNotes database, not just one. So from here we can view or edit the session details. So we can either tap the one entry, or we can press and hold and it brings up this menu where we can either view and edit the session notes, or we can delete it. So let's go and see where we would see the note from within the student. So if we wanted to just see Billy Bob's session notes, we would go select Billy Bob, just tap on Billy Bob, opens the student activity, and then we'll go to the student history and we'll see the history just for that student. So again, we can tap this entry from 11/1/2010, 10 a.m. and it'll open up the session note. But again, if you press and hold, you also have the option to delete a note. So let's talk about some other things you can do from the student detail activity. One thing you can do is drill into the contact information. And from here, there's all the typical options for either updating the contact information, or if, for example, this student has a postal address entered, you'd be able to select that postal address and be taken directly into the map view and get navigation to the student's home, for example. All kinds of options once you get into this contact, as you're probably used to from using your phone. We can easily directly contact the student from the student activity by tapping the phone number, or email them by tapping the email address. All of those are links. Monday 11/1/2010 under next session, we could tap that and open that particular note. Here I tap the phone number and you can see it takes me into the phone. So let's pop back out to the student tab on the main activity, and I'm going to press and hold the student name, and you'll see the options there are for working with the student directly from the student tab. I can view or edit the student details. That's the same as just tapping on a student from the student tab. I can create a note about a student directly from the student tab, so I don't necessarily have to have a session on the schedule tab. I can just tap on the student, click record session with student, and create a note for that student. And also I can easily call, text, or email the student. And finally, if I want to delete a student, I can do it from here as well. Note that deleting a student does not delete the underlying contact from your phone, but it will remove the calendar events. The scheduled appointments that you have with that student will be deleted if you optionally decide you want to do that. It will prompt you. So now that you know how SharpNotes keeps student information at your fingertips, please do download the ad-free version from the Android Marketplace. If you have questions or feedback for us, you can either email us at stratawise.sharpnotes@gmail.com or click the Send Feedback button inside of SharpNotes and send us your thoughts and ideas. We're very grateful for those. Thanks for your time.